am I excited to be recording another episode of PB and J. New format, got a new co-host, JD. JD, it's so great to be here with you. Great to have you here, sir.
Likewise, I'm ready to rock. How about
Awesome.
you?
I'm very excited. Who are we spreading the good word with today?
We are spreading the good word with Charlie Burnett, who is co-founder and director of personnel with Excellere IT.
Yep.
And so, Charlie, thank you for joining us, bud.
Of course. Happy to be with two friends here, man. So thanks for having me.
Man, we're excited too. First question, I'm just going to go ahead and rip it. Rank these on 1, 2, and 3 NFL insiders. We got Adam Schefter. We got Ian Rappaport. We got Charlie Burnett. How would you rank?
I have to ask Ian, but I think he would put me up there. I think he'd probably put himself first, but he might put me as a close second after having scooped him a couple of times.
Yeah, man. I don't want to be vague. I want to tell the people about this. So can you kind of share how this came to be? You were able to break 2 stories 2 years in a row that even Schefter and Rappaport couldn't get to in time. How did that come to be?
Yeah, I've got a really good buddy in the NFL. He plays tight end now, Hayden Hurst over for the Chargers. And he's always, he just, me being one of his good friends, thought it'd be hilarious if he let me break the news. And so we did it the first year, and I had my buddy Austin draw this, it was like New Jersey, first look at Hayden and his New Jersey. And it was like, he just literally colored it on Microsoft Art. It's terrible, but that's part of the joke. And Rappaport, when it did officially break to him, retweeted it and said, hats off to Charlie. This guy was on it first look in his new uni, and it was funny and blew up. So that was when he went to Carolina. And so when he went to San Diego, or not San Diego now, LA, we did more of the same thing. I didn't think Rappaport would do it a second time, but he tweeted again. He said, well, there you have it. Scooped by Charlie again.
Again.
And anyway, it was the same funny joke. It was hilarious. And props to Rappaport. I mean, he's hilarious for doing that, honestly.
Yeah, man. That's so awesome. Yeah, a little bit of background about the three of us. I want people to kind of understand how this came to be. We all ventured together at a company called Modus, which is originally from, founded here in Jacksonville, Florida. It's a Jacksonville podcast. And Charlie, you're Mr. Jacksonville, right? You've Mr. Jag, Mr. Knoll, but you've always bled teal. So just to hear what your thoughts are on the city and the direction it's going on is going to be great. But I also want to better understand, and I want the people to understand your company. So can you give just maybe a high-level overview of what you guys do, who you guys are, and we'll just kind of start there?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, couldn't have never done this without my 2 partners, one being my brother Mike Burnett, and the other being old Matty P, Matt Petrovich. All other Modus folks. So we're a full-scale, we like to call ourselves a one-stop IT shop. Kind of anything under the sun we'll try and tailor to whatever the customer really needs. But, technical terms, we're a managed service provider. Customers come to us to save costs, help them modernize their IT infrastructure, help them manage it on a day-to-day basis. And that can look a billion different ways. So yeah, that's sort of the general explanation and short explanation of kind of who we are and what we do.
So, speaking of who you are, I always like to learn a little bit about the person and the company and the movement and all that. Charlie, knowing you, I know you've had a lot of influences in your life, but who would you say is, the person who has inspired you the most, not just necessarily on the business side, but just in general? And who's been the inspiration for you?
I'll always say this. My brother, Mike, I've always just, no matter what, I've always looked up to him. We've grown up so close together and going through different things together as kids, and then, going into business together, and just listen, his work ethic and his drive and everything. I want to emulate him. I want to be just like him. I mean, I've always said that. I mean, you'll laugh at me. He went to Florida State. I went to Florida State. He joined a fraternity. I joined the same one. And when we were out, when I got my first job at Modus and Mike was working elsewhere, I mean, the whole idea in my brain, I always talk to him like, I want to work with you. I want to go into business with you. I want to be around him every day. I want to be the annoying little brother no matter what. So, but anyway, I mean, I would definitely say, Mike for sure has been up there. Obviously my entire family, but Mike in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's kind of a tough question to answer. Like I said, I know you've had a lot of people influence you, and then all that good stuff. So, well, that's cool. And thinking back and maybe putting on the business mindset, what would you say is your number one strength that you bring to the table?
I would like relentless. I like to think of myself as relentless in its term of I don't really want to accept no for an answer. In the way of like always trying to find a solution, I guess you could say. There's been plenty of roadblocks and such that we've run into. But I mean, at the end of the day, I always tell people like there's a solution to be had. There's a way around this problem that we can find a way and fix it. And, so we come up with new ways to solve problems every single day. So, but just keeping at it and keep, as Matty P taught me this, keep chopping wood. And so I always, in my brain, I'm always like, just no matter what, like just keep chopping, figure it out. There's definitely a solution here.
That's awesome. It's a great trait. So it's good. Randall, what you got, buddy?
Yeah, I was thinking about the chopping wood and being relentless, and it made me realize. I think anybody who's started a business knows like it's a grind. Like I just every day, there's no day off from the grind. You wake up, so you go to bed. There's always some fire to put out, something to help with the growth or the development of the business, whatever the case may be. But as you go through the grind, as you've been through the grind, I know you guys are still hustling and getting after it. What about what you do, or what about your internal motor keeps you motivated?
I don't know. I just seeing the growth. I don't know. Just seeing like I don't know the revenue growth or whatever it is, like the employee growth and adding new employees. Um, I don't know. It's just like the constant like want to like just grow and get bigger, right? Become a bigger presence in the community, um, a bigger presence nationally. Like we've got customers, obviously it started really in Florida, and we have some customers that literally have sites like all over Canada, South America, customers that have sites in Europe, Asia. Like, I mean, I guess in that sense of the word, you could, I guess, consider us global because, I mean, we do support and have supported those areas. So, I don't know, that growth, just wanting to constantly grow and get bigger and bigger, and kind of the motivator for me.
I think that's awesome, man. What about when you first started and you couldn't see the growth? Let's talk about the people who start businesses now, and the ones that give up because they couldn't see the growth or they felt that the effort that they were putting in wasn't being returned to them. Like, what kept you guys marching forward whenever maybe you couldn't see the growth immediately?
Yeah, I don't know. You got to definitely have like some type of inner belief. I mean, we really didn't make much for the first 6, 7 months. I mean, really didn't have any real contracts or anything like that. And, I don't know, just staying persistent and staying relentless, just knowing and I don't know, following your progress. Like, I don't know, it's the same thing in Modus. But I had some bad months, man, where it was cold, with no hires, nothing. And then like, just sticking to your formula, what believing in yourself. And, then next month we'd have 6, 7, 8, 9 hires. I mean, things would pop off. So
Sure.
just remaining consistent, I think is super important. Um, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
What does?
I'm going to flip it around a little bit because I think it's a good segue through all this process of, becoming a professional now, starting a business and growing it. What would you say is your biggest weakness? What do you keep constantly stubbing your toe on and or reoccurring that's something that you just have a difficult time with?
I get anxious a lot, like over stupid remedial things that really don't matter. But I think that sometimes this anxiety over like the little details, and it's good to care about the little details, but sometimes I care about them too much, and it'll cause me to make like reach out to somebody too quick, or maybe annoy them a little bit almost like. And I think that's my biggest weakness, like trying to work on just taking a deep breath and kind of letting the dominoes fall and letting the pieces and parts fall into place, and just like obviously still remaining that persistent, relentless, but also like relax a little bit, take a breath. It's all going to work out. Just kind of keep going. And I don't know. Yeah. The anxiety piece of over the little things. I need to get better at it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good point, though. And I think as a business owner myself, sometimes it's easy to get anxious.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be a business owner to get anxious in the workplace, right? Like, I mean, there's demands that are there no matter what. But it's good to be aware of it. And I mean, do you consciously work on it, or is it just as things come up that you really just kind of have a process that you tell yourself to take a step back? And how do you
Wow.
handle that?
Eva, my wife, helps me a lot. I mean, she'll know when I'm wound up about something, and she'll be like, "You just need to take a breath. It's gonna be fine. Like you've had a bunch of these problems, and you guys do a good job and work them out. And like if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world, you know." If you lose a deal or something, right, you got to just keep on going on. You can't fret over it forever, because then it'll affect other future deals or opportunities. So
Sure.
having her, and I mean, she's like has coached me there and helped me. I'll consciously think about it. Like literally, you just need to take a breath, relax, try and talk to myself and things like that.
Cool. Well, that's good. That's good. Good advice there. How is it internally with the team? I mean, do y'all openly? I get the impression that you've got a pretty transparent communication within your organization. But how does that work itself out in the day to day with your team?
Yeah.
With Matt and Mike and
So obviously with the brother aspect, I'm probably a little too transparent with them. But yes, I mean, we are very transparent and open with one another, and maybe something will go wrong or this or that. But at the end of the day, we're always like, all right, it's going to be okay. We're like, LFG. We're always texting her, LFG. It's all good. Well, let's go. We got this. So, we'll talk and we'll bark at each other here and there, but we never let those like at least we try, but we don't let those, I don't know, angry feelings or whatever linger. It's always okay. We've said what we've said and so on, but let's take a deep breath and keep going forward and make better decisions.
that's cool.
Yeah, man. So obviously you had the right partners, no doubt about it. I've met the boys; they're great. Like I said, there's a lot of people that kind of go through this. Unfortunately, their journey is a solo journey, and so they don't have those kind of people to lean on. So obviously, besides your two partners, obviously you have a wife there that helps you get through things. Can you describe like how important it would be to make sure that you have a quality network around you to help you problem solve, and maybe to help give advice whenever there's something you don't know, too much about?
It's so critical. I mean, when we started, it was just the three of us, right? And so, I mean, I guess the network was everything of how we, hey, we have this contract opportunity, but I don't really know anybody who can do this. Maybe so and so knows somebody who can help us out, and then you start reaching out. So, yeah, that networking piece is obviously super important and was really important for us. We really helped manage the entire business as a whole when we started, strictly with contractors, that were 1099 with us and helping us out. And we'd find bits and pieces of work here and there. And then, then we started getting the, managed service contracts. And now we can bring on full-time employees. But we still to this day utilize, that contractor network, I guess. And Yeah, I mean the network. It's everything for sure. The people that you know and the relationships you keep and so on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, one of the key reasons I wanted to bring that up. But in correlation with having a good network, we've already talked about the drive. I want to talk about what it's like to get creative to keep things afloat. Um, Most people don't know this, but you guys were kind of having to take different routes to make sure that you were securing funding to keep the business alive. Can you help us understand or walk through doing things that might be outside the scope of what the nature of the business is, just to make sure that the future continues to look bright and you can
Yeah.
fund the future part of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not a staffing company, although we do provide here and there staffing services. I mean but that's not what we really are on paper. Like we're a technology firm, right? Consulting firm. Um, but Mike, Matt, and I, obviously, as you guys know, we all come from recruiting backgrounds. When we first started, zero money in the bank, no outside funding or anything like that. It was kind of, we're living off of our savings type thing and so on. And we were thinking, like, how can we get quick cash? And we're like, well, you could get like a perm pops, permanent placement pops, and staffing. So I had done a lot of federal work previously, and before we started, we all took kind of like a full year off too, and we were all kind of floating around the world doing our own thing. But once we all reconvened to start this thing, yeah, I mean, I reached out to just random organizations on the federal side and commercial side saying, hey, listen, I'm sure there are firms out there that are charging you 25% fees, 20% fees. We'll come down to 17 and a half, 15. We can negotiate with you. I like me against those guys. I like my motor. I have a tool. I've got some tools that I can use. And so what they really did is they gave you these really hard positions to fill at first that are like impossible. Like, oh, they're like, all right, who's this guy? Like, and build one of them. And then they're like, okay. And it was a good cash hit, right? We were able to, pay for things like insurance. And all right, now we've set up, Paylocity for our payroll or little things. And then got a couple more. And they're like, okay, now, I mean, perm pops are good. I mean, you guys know, I mean, they can be big fees. So now it was like we have this almost little funding seed that has growing in that first year, and it's okay. Now we can take that perm cash and now we can go lease an office, a small office in Tampa, which was required for a big contract of ours. So we wouldn't have been able to win this contract really if it weren't for having some type of funding to. So anyway, I don't know. I think that was thinking outside of the box, knowing, hey, we're not going to be a permanent placement staffing firm. That's not what we're trying to do, but knowing that we have it in our back pocket and that we can do it and that it's good, quick cash that we could get going to kind of start up what we're looking to do. And we still to this day, by the way, we will offer those services and do. And we have people on contract for customers as well with big buckets of hours and so on. So, I mean, I'm not saying that's something we don't do. Again, we want it all. We'll take it all. We'll help where we can. But anyway, I think that was like a think outside of the box moment where it was like, your back's up against a wall. You don't have any other source of income. You got to figure something out to fund this thing.
That's awesome, man. Get in there and get her done.
Yeah. Giddy up.
Giddy up. That's right. That's right. I have a question for you, kind of back to the other side of things a little bit. You worked in the corporate world, so I just want you to speak from your own perspective. What was your aha moment that you were like, I need to go into business for myself. I need to help build something instead of come in and jump in the cog in the wheel. What was the switch?
It was honestly, it was at Modus. So it all started in my brain when, you learn about your spread, your staffing spread. And I was like, well, okay, my spread's up to, I think I got at one point in time, like it got close to 15. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, the spread, that's $15,000 a week that you're technically making the company. Obviously, they have the overhead expense and all that. And I was sitting there just running the numbers and the math in my head. And, and I'm not saying they paid fair commissions, right? They've got huge overhead, a ton of employees. But I was kind of like, man, I mean, maybe it's not staffing, but I think I could figure this out maybe. And then it still took, 3 or 4 years after that until we stepped off and did everything. But I think it was like the crunching my commission numbers and being like, man, I think I deserve a little bit more for the work I'm putting in. Maybe I put in a little bit extra work on the back end because, the business running, you got insurance and all that stuff. But hey, if you go and do all that stuff and get all that stuff figured out and hopefully automate it, which is what we're always trying to do, then you can start bringing in all that cash to yourself, right? And all that revenue, to yourself and building something on your own, I guess. That was my aha moment, though. When we got up and I was like, these guys are making some serious coin off. And I'm looking over at Randall, and you're at 20, and Randall's at 16 or 17, and I'm like starting to just crunching numbers in my head. I pull up an Excel file sheet, and I'm like multiplying that by the week, by the month, by the year, and I'm starting to be like, okay, that is some serious cash.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. I think that's many folks, once they kind of realize, like, I'm working my tail off.
Yeah,
Certainly there's benefits of a big company,
absolutely.
but I think I can do this, and maybe get a little bigger piece of the pie. So that's cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Little
Yeah.
seminal, what we call that? Seminal ingenuity. What's that word?
Intuition.
We can use intuition.
Ingenuity. There you go. Yeah.
I'll clip that out.
That's cool, man. So Charlie, man, really appreciate you taking this time again. It's been great to just kind of chop it up and hear about your experience and how you got to this point. But what's the one thing that you thought you knew that now you're in this spot and you're like, oh my gosh, I was completely clueless? Either you thought something was going to be great and it totally is horrible, or you thought something was like going to be horrible, but now you find purpose in it. What were you most surprised of now being a business, co-founder of a international managed services IT company that you didn't know when you were sitting in the pen at Modus, smiling and dialing?
I have the best answer for you, JD, because it was you used to grill this into my brain, and I should have listened to you. I didn't at the time. Documentation. My goodness.
Okay.
Documentation. Walked in, it's something I hated. I was just like, it was just one of those things. I was like, oh, this is so stupid. All these extra steps. This is pointless. What a waste of time. I don't understand why people do this. When you were putting stuff into Cosmos, and you were so right. Like, hindsight, I'm like, he was so right. That is one thing that now I like, and I'm still not the best at it, but I'm getting a lot better. And I just like